Yeah, all good.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Bailey Runs podcast. Today I'm joined with Jack Bruce. And Jack, would you like to introduce yourself to the viewers and listeners?
Yeah, sure. So, name's Jack Bruce. I'm 26. I run for the Bellwood Track Club in New Balance. Went to college at Arkansas for the last couple of years. Been back in Australia and running with MTC since 2019. I've went to World Cross Country Champs in 2019. Got third at Zatopek twice. Recently just won the Australian 3K Champs. I'll list up some PBs, I guess. Got 13:28 in the 5K, 28:15 in the 10, 3:39 in the 1500.
It's good. So I'm trying to stay away from running questions as long as I can. So what do you like doing in your free time besides running?
I'm pretty busy with, I'm reasonably busy with university because I'm a law student up here at QT, up in Brisbane. So a lot of my free time is spent, studying and working on that. Outside of that, honestly, just chilling out. Training takes a bit of it out of you most of the time. So I'm just either playing a game on my phone or like reading newspaper articles and that sort of thing. I try and keep up with a lot of news and read as much as I can. I'm either just when I'm not running, I'm either honestly just hanging out and playing a game on my phone or reading something or just hanging out generally. So probably when I stop running, I'll pick up a few hobbies that I'll spend more time doing, like golf or something. But for the moment, that's about all I do besides all the training.
You should go and play golf. I've played golf a couple of times. It's quite fun. It looks.
I do. I try and do it a bit more often. It is good fun. I don't know. I don't get to do it that much. Just when we're competing and stuff. But when there's a bit of downtime, I try and get a game in. I'm not too bad. I'm just pretty rubbish in the short game, but my long game is pretty good.
It's good. I mean, I'm all right at golf, I'd say myself.
Yeah, you're not too bad. Have you got a handicap?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. What's your handicap?
It varies like a lot because I play with one of my friends. So it's like he's pretty good at golf, even though he says he's not the greatest at golf. But we have a few good games, but handicap, it just varies. It's not really a specific range, but it varies a lot. Do you have a handicap or nah?
The last time I checked, it was like 25, I think. So it's got a lot of work to get down there, but that'll be more of a post-running career type of thing, I'm sure.
What did you study in college?
So I did an undergrad in finance and marketing at Arkansas. So that was I always I wanted to do something that was not necessarily transferable, but something that I wouldn't, if I wanted to work sort of in the industry that I studied, I didn't want to have to do a whole bunch of bridging courses and all this other stuff when we came back. So anything business related is kind of easy for that because you can just, it's all sort of one language, and there's not a whole lot of difference wherever you go in the world when you do anything business related. So that's it was pretty. I haven't really tried to get any. I haven't tried that hard to get a lot of finance jobs or anything. It's a pretty big commitment. It's definitely an industry that's sort of like all or nothing. Yeah. So it's a bit hard to do when you're running. So, but I always wanted to do law and be a lawyer as well. So that's kind of that's the direction I want to go in. It's just
how's that going so far?
Going all right. I'm about just coming up to sort of halfway through it.
Yeah.
It's a bit it can be time consuming, but it's just if you can find a way to work smarter and not just bang your head against the wall and work for long hours.
Yeah.
That's what I really try and do, is just find ways to not shortcut stuff, but just to work as efficiently as you can, so that you don't spend a whole lot of time doing a lot of meaningless like tasks and things.
Yeah.
So if you can get it all in the best way possible, that doesn't take the longest amount of time, that's honestly the best way to do it.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I've noticed you have an Arkansas tattoo on the back of your back. Why did you get a tattoo of that?
So there's a tradition at Arkansas that started back in the 70s of doing that. So it started with this guy called Joe Falcon, who was a 334, 335 runner. And so he won the NCAA championships. I couldn't tell you what year it was. And he got the hog tattoo. And that's how it started. And so people started doing that. But the requirement changed from being an NCAA champion to just being an All-American, because, it's one university doesn't win a whole lot of NCAA championships.
Yeah.
And so it's still pretty hard to get All-American. So yeah, it's I did it, as sort of part of that tradition, I suppose. But I didn't get it from the first time being All-American. I got it for the second time because I didn't want to do it once, get the tattoo and jinx myself and never run good again. So yeah, I waited till I did it twice and then I got it. Yeah. So it's a tradition thing, I suppose. Because normally I wouldn't just get a random tattoo for a random reason. So it took me it took a lot of convincing of myself to actually go and get it.
I mean, it's quite large.
Yeah, it's well, a lot of runners in college that I met, they, a few of them have their sort of school or university logo tattooed on them, and most of them have it on their like upper thigh, kind of up near your hip. So I just wanted to do something a little bit different, and it was good for. It's a large one, yes, but it's it was like, given that it's on my shoulder blade, I didn't want it being like too small. Yeah. So yeah, I reckon it's pretty good. It's a pretty good size. The guy who did it did a reasonably good job. So.
Or what is the best athlete's tattoo you've seen from college?
From college?
Or overall, like.
Oh, overall. That's a good question. I'm sure one of Brett's is pretty good. I'm just trying to remember what they are. I don't know. So I would say that Brett's snake that he has on his sternum, I'd give him a lot of kudos for getting that one, and especially getting it there, because depending on where you get a tattoo, it hurts more or hurts less. And your sternum is quite sensitive. So getting a tattoo on your sternum is a pretty, you got to have it would have hurt a good amount, I reckon, but maybe I'm wrong. So that one I'd have the most sort of respect, in the sense of, Jesus, you got it, in the sense of you got it done there. I wouldn't get it done there. Respect to you, sort of thing. Best tattoos. I don't know. I reckon Lewandowski's got some cool tattoos. I don't know what they all are, but he's just he seems like a very tattooed man. So yeah, he's probably got some cool ones. I'd say his overall look with all the tattoos he has is probably what I like the best.
Yeah. Well, I was surprised that Craig doesn't actually have a tattoo at all, Ingles. Because I would have thought that he would have gotten one, but he doesn't, which is surprising to me.
Yeah, I know him reasonably well. Because he's Ole Miss and Arkansas are in the same conference in college, and he and I raced at the same time.
Yeah,
he's more into I don't know. He's more into doing sporadic and silly things than getting a tattoo.
Yeah,
he probably would. I don't know. Look, he might have one on his bum or something.
He has a tattoo. I know he has a tattoo and it says Yeet. He has it on his finger.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's very Craig Engels. Yeah, so I don't know. He'd be the guy that would be more into getting a tattoo on his ass that no one sees. than getting something on his forearm that everyone's going to see, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And he's more into like, like having a funny mustache or something like that. So that's more his style. At least, yeah, knowing him as much as I do, that I'd say that's more his style.
Yeah. So this is towards your girlfriend. How did you meet your girlfriend? Was this at college, or did you meet her before we went to college?
After. So she's we actually met on Bumble, which is the funny bit. But we didn't talk on there very much.
Yeah.
Well, actually, we didn't talk on there at all. I actually, like, we have a lot of mutual friends from, like, through both like runners and things we know both know up in Brisbane. So, yeah, I think I matched with her on Bumble, and then, but like she didn't, I think how they got to say, like, the girl has to say hey first, and then you say hey back.
Yeah.
But yeah, there were no conversation sparks from there. But I'm pretty sure I think I DM'd her on Instagram and just asked if she wanted to go get a coffee or something, and then and it went from there. So I'm I suppose you could say we're one of those Bumble relationships, but I mean, we didn't really talk on there. So anyway, but it's not right story.
Yeah. Arkansas, are you still actually allowed to wear their gear, considering your New Balance now, or nah?
No, you can't. I mean, you can't wear any competing brands or anything like that. So, given the amount of swooshes that are on the Arkansas gear, I don't know. I wouldn't be allowed to wear any of it. It's all sitting in a box at the bottom of my house. So it's not like, it's all nice stuff, but I mean, I don't really have a huge desire to wear any of it, just because when you finish in college, you kind of, it's another step. It's not, I wouldn't say it's a chapter in your life, but it's sort of like you move on from one thing to the next thing. So, I mean, when I'm done running, I'll probably wear some of it again just for sentimental reasons. But I mean, I'm not, like, I don't really have a huge desire to wear any of it, to be honest with you. So,
is that because you, like you said, you're not allowed to wear it, but would you wear it if you weren't sponsored by New Balance again, or nah?
Maybe occasionally I'd wear like one of the singlets or the hat or something, but I wouldn't be rocking all the gear all the time. Like, just maybe a piece or two of it every now and again, but I wouldn't be wearing it that often.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, I mean, you wore it at the 2017 Zatopek? You wore the full kit, because I remember you seeing you there.
Yeah, so I wore it at 2018. Well, I didn't have a New Balance contract at that point, and the plan, I'd never ended up doing it, but what I was going to do is get that the singlet I wore, I was going to get a lot, like, well, it doesn't say Arkansas, but it has the running Razorback on it. I was going to get alumni put underneath it. Yeah. So back in the day, when a lot of the so it's like back in the 80s and 90s, a lot, because Arkansas has produced a boatload of really good runners. Yeah. A bunch of them used to, even when they finished up in college, they stuck around, as professionals, they stuck around and trained there. Yeah. And so the guys that, didn't have contracts or anything, they wear the Arkansas alumni kit, but that literally just the singlet with alumni stamped on the bottom of Arkansas. So I never got around to doing it, but that's what the plan was I was going to do. So, but that's I never, like, what they do in the NCAA is they have all these rules that everyone on this, like, whenever there's your team's competing at a meet, you all have to wear the exact same kit. You can't like mix and match different colors and whatnot. So that sort of combo that I wore, we never really wore it. We never wore it because not everyone, they didn't make that color combo for all the team kits. Yeah. Like, they didn't have because a lot of the sprinters wore like speed suits. They didn't make the speed suits in that color combo. So so it was sort of unique in its own way, but it wasn't. Like I wore the college kit to start with, but I mean, I wouldn't do it again if I mean, if I wasn't signed by New Balance, and I probably wouldn't do it again, just because, like, I wore it then because I was just out of college, so it was a little bit different. But now I've been out of it for a while. It's like I wouldn't do it again.
Yeah, which is fair. I mean, a lot of people that go out of college, they don't actually wear it again. The only person that I know that actually still wears their kit is Craig, but he's Nike, so I mean, he can kind of do that because it has the Nike and everything on it.
Yeah, I mean, so like someone like Geordie occasionally wears some of his Villanova kit, but like not. I mean, it's not often that. I mean, like he'll be photographed in it every now and again, but like not that often. So
yeah.
I don't know, maybe Craig's just got a better photographer following him around all the time. But yeah, it's. I mean, he probably just wears it occasionally, but it is pretty nice stuff. Like especially some of the newer stuff is pretty nice. So it's.
I mean, where's your photographer following you around everywhere?
I'm not with some big Nike group where they just employ one to follow them around. No, I'd get annoyed if I had a photographer following me around, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I mean, you have Riley Wolf photographing, what was it, the New Balance, when New Balance released their Pro Kit.
Yeah, so they're what did they do? They like contracted him out to do that. And so now like Tempo Journal's going to be doing a bunch like that for a lot of the shoe brands. But it was a bit more, I suppose for us, it was a bit more like not individualized, but just because there's a bunch of us signed with the brand at the moment, they made it a bit more, well, a lot of us, put it this way, a lot of us have got a lot of Instagram photos to post for a little while from that. So yeah. No, it was pretty, I mean, it's good for that. It's good for the brand. It's good for Tempo Journal. So yeah, it's a pretty good deal all around.
Yeah. Well, I mean, New Balance isn't as big as what Nike, Adidas and all them are, but they're getting up there slowly, which is good.
They're probably, they're transitioning out of being sort of they're transitioning out of being the top of the second pack. So like, if you think about the shoe brands in terms of Nike, Adidas being the biggest two, and then there's sort of everyone else. Yeah. They're moving away from being the top of everyone else to sort of being transitioning to being that sort of third in that top tier. They've grown a lot in the last couple of years. So they're starting to become more of a Nike and Adidas than they used to be compared to like Brooks or Asics.
Yeah.
So they're making a lot more money, and the more people wearing their shoes. So they're transitioning towards that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I like how New Balance have just gone their own way in the spikes compared to what Adidas and Nike have gone down. Because a lot of brands I know have copied Nike's design, and New Balance is the only brand that I know that hasn't copied their design in any way, which I think is really, really smart.
Are you talking about the Dragonflies?
Yeah, Dragonflies.
Yeah, I mean, Nike and, especially Nike's competition shoes, they are the benchmark for everyone else to sort of mimic and divert and differentiate from. So they're always going to be, at least for now, they're probably always going to be 2 years in front of the 8 ball, just because they're the market movers. They're not the imitators. So honestly, I mean, Adidas doesn't. Their running space is really not. They're being known less and less for their running stuff. They're more known for sort of basketball, soccer, and they're maximizing that part of their business rather than the running side. But Nike's foundation is running shoes, and New Balance is as well to a large extent. So it's look, there's a lot of similarities between a lot of the shoes because the basic fundamentals of what the shoes do is the same. So there's still going to be a lot of the same stuff. You've got we take the marathon shoes or some of the spikes recently. I mean, I know that the Dragonflies don't have a plate in them, but they're built in a way where the foam does a very similar job to what like the Next Percent shoes do. Not exactly the same, but more or less it's a similar sort of thing.
Well, I saw a
And
photo of Nico Young wearing a pair of what it looks like dragonflies.
yeah, they're like, and then painted over with Adidas stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. Like a lot of sex kind of goes back to, how Nike's sort of the market mover with this stuff.
yeah,
A lot of other brands haven't, they either don't have the money or don't have just the resources generally. They don't have the resources to put something out there as quickly as Nike does. I mean, Nike's already, it takes a long time for these shoes to get developed. So I got told, I think that the RC Elite version ones, which are the they're the carbon plated marathon shoes that New Balance has readily
yeah,
available at the moment. They
yeah,
took 2 years to develop,
yeah,
and so what are we now? They came out in 2020, so in 2018 they were getting developed, and in 2018 there was already the vapor. That's when the first of the Nike carbon
yeah,
shoes came out. So
yeah,
it's Nike's always a bit ahead of everyone else. So I think, I mean, college guys, it doesn't matter so much. They themselves are not contracted with big brands. Their schools are. So
yeah,
there's no liability on them personally. So, if they're going to wear a shoe that does a little bit more for them and paint it over with another logo, like it is what it is.
yeah,
But you even see pro athletes doing that,
yeah,
like a lot of athletes from different brands have done that. And it just, I don't know whether it actually gives them that much of an advantage at the end of the day. I
yeah,
don't think it's all speculation really. Because there's so many factors into going into running fast or a good performance in general, but they all sort of feel like we need to be wearing this stuff to get the best out of ourselves. So
yeah,
it is what it is.
yeah. I mean, this is related to shoes. What is your favorite New Balance like over a running shoe? Because I saw you have a full box like high up to the roof in your room.
Yeah, over in that
Yeah,
corner,
yeah,
I've just sort of collected them. Just yeah, it's a cool little image. There's an RM Williams box in there too. So there's one set that's not in place. Daily trainers. I switch between the 880s and 1080s, so I can't really pick. The 1080s feel a little better. Like those are insanely good running shoes, but they're just a little less durable than the 880s. So I like them evenly, but there's bits about both that are better than the other. But overall, they serve a pretty, they're just as good as each other when you weigh it all up. So in terms of daily trainers, they're my favorite. Yeah, there's not really a shoe I dislike with New Balance. It's the thing. Like I don't, some I've, tried and I don't think like, they don't quite hit the mark, but that's not to say that they're bad in any way.
yeah,
Like for thresholds and stuff, I'll usually wear the fuel cell TCs. So that's sort of if you think about, they would be the equivalent of what like either the Tempo Next Percents or the, what is it? The Zoom Fly 4s would be, except they're different. Like so they're a training shoe that's a bit heavier with a carbon plate.
yeah,
But the difference between those and what their like Nike counterparts are is the foam is a bit softer,
yeah,
so it's not quite as hard underfoot,
yeah,
and not quite as stiff.
yeah,
So those are like threshold shoes, and then my favorite, honestly, actually no, my favorite racing shoe is the 5280. So that's the road mile shoe.
yeah.
That's very hard to get,
Have you
but
got them?
that's an insanely good shoe.
Have you gotten your hands on them or nah? You haven't been able to.
No, I've got them. I'll go grab it. It's a bit. Oh, actually, sorry, that's a dirty one. I've got another one over here. Yeah. So it's this one.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a road mile shoe. It's got a plate in it. Yeah, it's insanely good. It's like the good. It doesn't. It's probably a really good shoe for like track workouts, and if you're running like a 5K road race or something, that's what it's perfect for.
Yeah.
I did see debate in it in 2019. That's 12K race, and that was probably a little too much, but not by much. The upper limit for it is like 10K.
Yeah.
but you get the most out of it probably 5K down to that road mile. But you don't really run road. No one runs road miles very often. But
No.
they made the shoe for. Well, they sort of developed and launched the shoe around the Fifth Avenue Mile. That's where it started.
Yeah.
And yeah. So, but all the New Balance athletes have them. So
Yeah.
they're an insanely good shoe.
Yeah. I mean, I saw your pair of spikes, and they're like a lot of foam.
The ones I wore on the weekend.
Yeah, those.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I better not show you them just because they're not out yet. So I don't.
Yeah, I know. I saw them. They're not out. They look pretty good. Do they have a plate in them or nah?
They do. It's not. I honestly noticed it a little bit, but not much. It's so it's the same sort of. It has the same midsole as the 5280 does, so it's a little. It's fresh foam. Sorry, fuel cell foam, not fresh foam.
Yeah.
It's so there's the fresh foam stuff is what's in most of the daily trainers. Fuel cells the more high performance foam, and it comes in different densities. But it has that fuel cell foam, so it's pretty responsive. It has with a plate in the middle. And yeah, it's the 1500 to 5K version. So it's the MDX, what it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a solid shoe. I mean, I suppose you do notice the difference when you wear your pretty stock stand. If you're wearing if you were wearing the Zoom Victories, for example, and then you will put on something like that, you would notice the difference. But I mean, would I say that it gave me, gives you a huge advantage? I don't think so. Like maybe a little bit, but it's not something you run a race and you walk away from and you go, holy shit, that gave me like an extra 10 seconds. It doesn't work like that. Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of people I'm sure there's plenty of runners who've got the Dragonflies or those other Nike ones that have a plate in them, and they, have only raced marginally better or haven't raced any better at all. So it's, it's a nice little, it gives you a little bit, but it doesn't give you that much. Yeah. You've still got to do the hard work and all that.
Well, I can tell you that if you have because I have the Dragonflies and I also have another pair of middle distance runners, the Rival Ds, you can definitely tell the difference between a shoe that has a plate and a shoe that doesn't. Because the one with the plate, it has a little bit more foam compared to the one that doesn't have any plate, I've noticed. Yeah. So then, of course, you're going to see some performance because you're not too low to the ground, as that will help in some way, I think. Because that's why a lot of shoes have been banned on the track, like the Next Percents, because of how high the foam stack is and everything, which does, in fact, give you some increase in performance, but not a lot. But it still does.
Yeah, you got to remember, though, that and I know this just from I've done some track sessions in the RC Elites and stuff, and they have a bit of a stack height, not quite as high as the Next Percents, but they're still reasonably high.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think those shoes aren't designed to be running around a lot of turns. They're designed to be running straight lines.
Yeah.
So you do get that taking away factor of having you're in a shoe that your foot's pretty high off the ground when you're going around the bends. Yeah. I've always found that my feet slip around when that happens. So by some token, I don't know. I honestly think that part of why they brought that rule in is just to silence a lot of chatter around how good those shoes would be on the track. But I think I mean, look at the world champs in 2019. There was a whole lot of the whole top end of the field were wearing spikes.
Yeah.
So, and there were people in that race wearing the Next Percents. So,
yeah,
I don't know that it actually gives you, when you get the further you get to the top end of the sport, the less these kind of things give you. They're really all these little things are very marginal. So, it's something like the world champs. If someone turned up in the Next Percents, and they tried, they're trying to run. You couldn't run. I don't think you could run 12:45 in the Next Percents. I don't think it's possible.
Yeah.
Could be proven wrong, but I don't think you wouldn't be able to you'd be detrimenting yourself if you were trying to run fast in the last lap of the race, for example. So, yeah, that's just sort of how I see it. But yeah, I think it's good if you're someone who runs like a 30-minute 10K, maybe in that region it might help you. But yeah, I wouldn't do it just because I've always like, if you're running on the track, wear spikes.
Yeah.
You just should do that.
Yeah.
I think that actually wearing spikes and having more traction is more beneficial in that scenario. But yeah. Don't know. It's an interesting debate, the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, now I'm going to go towards your races in the past. So back in 2017, you came second in NCAA in the 5K. How was that going into the race? Like, how did you feel and everything? Like, did you know you were going to come in the top 3 in that, or was there like?
No, I think at that time I'm just trying to remember. So I think I was probably ranked around 10th or so in terms of how fast I'd run that season. So I'd run 13:38. Reasonable time, but nothing crazy fast. Because I remember Justin and I had run like 13:17 that season. So I wasn't someone who was near the top of the field in terms of how well I'd run that season. But we ran a reasonably slow race. I'm pretty sure we had some 80-second laps in the first bit of the race. So gives you an idea how slow we were. Anytime I got to run at Hayward Field, or the older Hayward Field, and I'm sure, hopefully I'll go there next year for World Champs, but it was a pretty amazing atmosphere. Like it's something you probably, not so much like having a full crowd, but just the enthusiasm of the crowd that's there.
Yeah.
It is a pretty special place. I think honestly the best way to describe that race is I just had a really good day, and it was slow, and it's sort of like I think we ran 4:05 for the last mile.
Yeah.
So we hadn't run fast before it, so how fast we were going before, most of us should have been able to run around that. But it was a good race. I didn't let the occasion get to me. So I was pretty aggressive. I raced aggressively, and especially in the last bit of the race. So I definitely took it to him, and I still kind of look back at that race, and I know exactly what I did wrong and where I could have won the race.
Yeah.
So, but I don't really kick myself over it just because, like you can't, I can't change it. But I had that's one of the best performances I've had to date.
Yeah.
But hopefully, some of the guys that finished around me in that race have got some big PBs. So I know I know with the way I'm tracking, I'm due for something pretty big in the near future.
Yeah. Well, before you were training with Melbourne Track Club, who were you training with, like leading up to the 2019 World Champs?
So I was still over in America because I was doing a year of postgraduate study over there, and so I was just sort of training with the team over there.
Yeah.
So, but I did some stuff on my own too. So it was sort of I didn't really have any proper direction in coaching and anything like that. So, and I did that for about 6 months. So sort of when I finished college until the end of 2018 is sort of when I sort of properly joined Melbourne Track Club, or like in that period of time. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you move to the Melbourne Track Club because you moved back to Australia and that was like that group and you knew a lot of them? Or did you just
I didn't really know too many of them. I knew Stewie from a few years ago, but I didn't really keep in touch with him that much. Look, to be honest, when you're in college and you sort of, it's a bit of a different world over there. And even college is its own thing. It's kind of it's a very sheltered and bubbled environment. But the professional scene over there is, well, it doesn't really exist that much in Australia. Not really. I
Yeah.
mean, there's no there's not many. There's individuals who are professional runners, but they're not really collectivized into proper groups aside from Melbourne Track Club, I suppose. But in America, you have a lot of that. It's like groups all over the place. And so I was set on, trying to join one of the groups over there.
Yeah.
But it didn't pan out. And I mean, I've been talking to Nick for a little while, so it was, it made sense, I think, at the time to join Melbourne Track Club. A lot of success, and so it was more feasible. It was the most feasible option at the time. So
yeah,
I honestly didn't really think too much about it when I decided to want to join. It was like, there's nothing really else going for you at the moment. It's not like I wasn't really deciding between a whole bunch of places to go. It was like, there's a good option here in front of you, just take it.
Yeah.
And so that was the thought process, to be honest.
Yeah, that's good. So, like the environment and everything over there, how much different is that compared to Australia? Because I know over in America, they get really into the sport compared to Australia. Like, you have a few people here and there supporting it. Like, how is that when you go to national champs and that over in America?
So the best way to describe, you can get a very different experience at college depending on where you go. So you can go to a very small college and get a not very different experience to what you would get in Australia.
Yeah.
Or actually maybe a worse experience depending on where you go. But if you go to one of the big colleges and all that have, where they're fully funded, they have, you get all the, you get shoes and gear like more than you would ever ask for or need. You go to one of those like Arkansas is, like, Oregon and all these other places. Think about it as like, it's kind of like being on, I suppose it would be like being on an AFL team.
Yeah.
But you're not getting paid. And I suppose that's the one big difference, is you're not getting paid. You're not getting paid lots of money to be there. And you're studying a degree. So those are the main two. So it's kind of like, I suppose it's, I mean, a lot of people, run and study it here as well, but it's like you're given a team identity. You're given pretty much all the tools that you need, or that you could ever need to, make it as easy as possible to be good. That's the best way to describe it, I think.
Yeah.
Because, I remember we got, are you still there? Yeah. Sorry, my phone's getting low. Let's plug it in. We got like, there was a dining hall we had. We could get free food. You never had to pay for anything and stuff like that. So it's a very different existence and experience.
Yeah. Well, I've heard from someone over in America, I'm not going to say his name, but they're potentially going to get paid in the next 2-3 months off their name, potentially, which will be good for a lot of students if they're like not enjoying it as much. But that, I don't really understand why they wouldn't enjoy going to college if they chose that school and they're really dedicated to the sport that they're doing.
Yeah, but I'd say that if you're, again, it varies all over the place. But if you're on a full scholarship, you're getting like a stipend from your scholarship, and if you minimize a lot of other costs, like if you paying rent and all that stuff over there, then you can still pocket a good amount of money. So it's not like, again, not all cases, some people don't, a lot of people don't have that luxury, but you're not, if you're a good athlete over there and you're at a big school, you're not living really hardly.
Yeah.
You're not living very harshly, not hardly, I should say. Because when you travel as well, they give you stipend money for like food and everything else. And I remember when we used to go to Stanford, we'd be there for like 4 days and we'd get like $360. And you, like, trust me, you would never spend all of that. I reckon I spent maybe, if you really minimize it enough, you can probably walk away with like 60% of it.
Yeah.
Like, you don't even spend half of it if you really do it properly. So, I don't know all of what's going on with the new changing the rules. It's more targeted around football and basketball players, where the university is like selling jerseys with the player's name off the back of them. It's more targeted at that.
Yeah.
In terms of how it trickles down to track and field athletes, I mean, it depends. Like, it depends how the new rules operate. Because if it's only like, if the athlete can only make money off, off proceeds off their name and image, well, then you got to ask the question, like, how much money is being made off that person's name and image. So but I think it would also extend to, like, if the local coffee shop or something like that wanted to sponsor one of the athletes, that it would fit into that rule as well. So it's not it'd be a bit tricky. Like, if you're if the car dealerships over there wanted to give you a free car, that could be a thing, like, for example. So I think it works more like that. I don't know that, I might be wrong, because I haven't read any of the rules, but if it's name and image, I don't know if it's as simple as, like, the university says, hey, you come over, we're paying for everything and we'll give you a 30 grand salary. It probably wouldn't work like, I don't know if it would work like that, but
the way I'd look at it is, I wouldn't think the school should pay them. I think it should be like, if you're getting sponsored by, say, a business or company, they should pay you something in order for you to show their brand or image.
That's what I'm saying. I think it would work like that. Because I mean, there's an argument to say that the university should pay for, their football, like, pay a salary for their football players and things, because the team brings, like, I can tell you, like at Arkansas, the football team, even when they were terrible, they would bring in a revenue of, they bring in a revenue, I want to say it's something like $50 million. So it's, there is an argument for a lot of those sports that make, like, stupid amounts of money, that the players should be, like, just paid some form of salary. I don't know, but it's where, like, track and field programs, they cost money. So it's a lot harder to say. And this is why it's the whole amateur athlete status and athletes being able to be paid has taken so long, because the NCAA, I can't just say, okay, it's only football players that can get paid, because, the rules they put in they apply to all sports. They're not arbitrarily selected for one sport or the other. So, it's been a complicated thing for a while, but I mean, it's good to see it being changed. But I don't like, are track and field athletes going to make a lot of money off the new rules over there? Probably not. They'll make a bit, but I don't think they're going to make a crap load of money.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, I think Ben Crawford's helped with that as well, with getting some big athletes their name in some way because of his YouTube channel and everything. Because I know Cupid's hearing that they became a lot bigger when Ben was taking videos of them racing and everything. So then they got their image out through that they're getting a lot better with that. Because I know with, this doesn't relate to anything, but followers, this doesn't mean anything to anyone, but followers, with Ben's videos and everything, they went up by, I think, 6-7K because his videos were getting that many views. So then that helped grow their name. So then when they have an event or something, people want to come out and watch them.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Yeah, it's look, if the rules make it better for those guys to, build their own sort of personal brands and things, then that's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, that's why Ben's done really well with what he's done. So he started off with a YouTube channel, he got, I think it's about 60K now.
Mhm.
He's showed videos of Cooper, Everett, and all them Cole, all their process to where it led up to the indoor NCAAs, where they came 1-2 in the 3K, and Cole won the mile, I think, and then Oregon also won the DMR. So then
Mhm.
that's with that, and then then now Ben's just made his own brand called the New Track Generation. So then he's just made a full other business out of that
Mhm.
through the image he's made for himself on YouTube, which
Yeah.
I think is really smart, because then he's partnered up with the Harry. I don't know if you heard of that brand, but there's like a few brands over in America that are willing, I think, to pay him to get in his magazine, because he's just made a magazine and gotten people to write stuff in it, leading up to events over in America. So it's quite cool what they're doing. So, but
Yeah. No, that's all good stuff. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what Riley Wolf's doing. He's doing quite well recently, and he's
Yeah.
helped build up a lot of people's businesses. Because I know with Riley Wolf, it's helped a lot more, like people like New Balance and that get their name out a lot easier. Because then Riley Wolf's all like more Australian, so then all the Australian people all know about New Balance and their athletes and everything, which I think is
Yeah.
smart.
So he told me the other day when they started, Nike was one of their sort of founding partners,
Yeah,
and built into that was that they could only exclusively sort of market Nike's stuff. But
yeah,
now that exclusivity clause has ended, so
yeah,
they're allowed to shop around with all the other brands and do all that.
yeah, which is good. It
Mm.
helps other brands get their name out and help people like you and all your New Balance crew
Mm.
help spread their products and everything, so they get more sales and everything, which is really smart.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
What would be your favorite Arkansas kit you've ever gotten given, like gear wise, if you had to?
Oh, there's a ski parka that I've got that's pretty good. It's like a big Nike ski parka. Yeah, that's a pretty good one. I'm never gonna wear it,
Yeah,
not in Australia anyway. But don't know. Maybe when I'm older, if I go on a ski holiday in America or Europe or somewhere, I'll wear it. But
yeah,
otherwise, yeah, it's sitting in the closet.
yeah. I mean, I like the New Balance Pro kit. That looks really cool. The new one, is it the red and black and the white, I think?
Oh, you talking about the race kit?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's this year's kit's pretty good. They I'm not the biggest fan of the bright split shorts, but don't know. I've said that publicly, so I'm gonna get in trouble for saying that. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of the bright red shorts, but it's all right. Makes you stand out, I suppose.
yeah, which helps, because then
Yeah,
they're like, oh, that's Jack. I know
yeah,
where you are.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So leading up to the 3K Nationals this year, how was training going into it?
The training was pretty good. I mean, I broke my sacrum at the end of last November, and so I had the 6 weeks off to recover from that, and then so this is going from into about January 5th or so, and then
Yeah,
the rest of January was pretty much just getting used to running again,
yeah,
and then probably from the start of February until 5K Nationals, it was just training and actually getting fit again, which was a
yeah,
horrible process. Because it sucked. It's great. It's easy when you're in shape when you're running. It's not when you're not in
yeah,
shape.
yeah,
So that 6 weeks leading up to 5K Nationals is okay. So I was in all right shape at 5K Nationals, but
yeah.
actually, I think I got clipped and hit the rail and rolled my ankle in the race. So I had to drop out because I was I was limping at about 6 laps in.
Yeah.
Couldn't run properly. So yeah, and so then I came back home to Brisbane for the next 5 or so weeks after that.
Yeah.
I got some good training in here. Weather wasn't great for the first 3 because it was around the time where all that flooding was happening in New South
Yeah.
Wales. So I think it rained for like 2 weeks straight. So
Yeah.
yeah, not the funnest time. Um, but I got really good block of training in, and that was sort of all the way up until 3K nationals. I'm in. Yeah, so I'm back in some good shape again. So yeah, it wasn't. We were a bit slow for the first half of that race, but
Yeah.
I was able to close pretty well.
Yeah.
And ran a solid time. So so it's a good little. Well, I'm coming to making my charge for the Tokyo team a little later than most, just because of how I've come back from the injury and everything. So it's a step in the right direction for trying to get on the team for the 5K, get some points and winning that one. So so a good little step. It's a good starting block for what's coming up.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you make the Tokyo Olympics. That'll be cool. Because that'll be different to world champs.
Yeah, exactly. No, it'd be pretty good.
Yeah. This is back to the last year. It was the Steigen 3K, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a pretty good race, considering the weather was not the greatest.
Yeah, I mean, we ran pretty quick, given that it was pissing down rain.
Yeah.
It was. There wasn't much wind around that day, which was all right. It was just very wet. I remember. I remember running just running, but anytime I was running behind someone, I just couldn't see. There was so much water getting flicked up in my face. So it wasn't. It wasn't the best conditions at all, but we ran pretty well. I mean, I got myself into very good shape in the middle of last year, but there was nothing on, so there wasn't much to sort of display. There wasn't many opportunities to display sort of the fitness I had at that point, besides those 2 time trials I did. So, I was. So I'd say I've got back to that sort of shape again, which is good. So. Yeah, but last year, I put a lot of really good foundational blocks of fitness in last year, which have still paid dividends to today. So for the most part, I did the COVID year correctly, and I think it'll pay off for some good results this year.
Yeah. This is off completely. But you watches wise, like running watches, what is your most preferred watch to run in? Because I run in a Garmin 235.
Yeah. So this one I wear is the Polar Vantage M. So I'm a little different. Like I don't go the Garmin's. So we're the Polar watch. It's pretty good. It's one of their more top end watches. It's not. It's a little bit of an older model. I got it in 2019. It does all the things. So it's a pretty decent watch.
Yeah, which is good. Well, I mean, I had a Polar watch. I don't remember what it was called. But that was a pretty good watch until I got the Garmin, because that Polar watch ended up playing up halfway through my run, and I was like, oh, what's going on here? So I checked it, and it didn't have enough storage, and it just kept dying, and I was like, okay, I need to get a new watch. I was thinking the Chorus. I've heard they are pretty good watches as well, but
I wouldn't know. Never tried one, so I think they're pretty new as far as I'm aware. So so they're a reasonably good watch from what I understand. I mean, Garmin just has most of the market, so they just charge the highest prices. But they still, they've still cornered most of the market for sports watches. So most people, when anyone thinks of like the sport watch, they don't say, "Oh, what watch is that?" They say, "Oh, what Garmin is that?" So they're on that sort of level.
Yeah, I mean, I saw one of your posts. It was the New Balance Rebel. I've heard that's a pretty good shoe as well. It's quite light. I tried it on. It's quite comfy. What is you reckon that, would you race in that ever, or?
I wouldn't race in it. It's a very good training shoe. I used it for thresholds, hills, not on the track, just going back to that sort of that stack height issue. I don't prefer. I try to do intervals on the track in shoes that don't have a big stack height, just so that I can I just feel a bit more secure going around the turns. Yeah, but it doesn't have a plate, but it has the same density of foam that the RC Elites have. So, there's a lot of evidence newer, like they've done studies on the carbon shoes more recently, and so there's a bit to say that you shouldn't be training in carbon shoes all that much. Yeah. So I don't always use carbon shoes like for every session. So I just try and I chuck them on where where I can. Yeah. But they're a very good shoe. Is what I'll say. And they you notice there isn't a plate there, but at the end of the day, I don't really notice the difference too much. And they feel very responsive. So they're very good. They are a very good flat to train in.
Yeah. Oh, this is back to the tan. You ran all right at the tan, didn't you?
Yeah, I did all right. I mean,
34?
10:34. Yeah, it was more, that race was just more of a hit out just to that race was just more of a hit out to get another race in before 3K champs, and because I haven't had a whole lot of racing just with how things have gone at the start of this year. So I just wanted to get a few races in a short space of time just to have a little racing block. And New Balance was sponsoring the event, so sort of had to do it. But I mean, I wanted to do it as well. So it was a good, and trying to have a go at getting a top 10 time, but we'll just have to do it another year.
Yeah, I mean, you just missed it, didn't you, for the board?
10:26, I think, is the 10th time. So still a bit off, but I just went a little too hard on the top. That was my my mistake. Yeah.
Well, what is your favorite race you've been in? Like, because I know you've run a lot. Like, that is a hard question.
We'll cut off date. Don't know. Oh, NCAA 5K final was pretty good. I mean, it's running Hayward Field. It's hard to beat it. But outside of that one, I'd say Zatopek 2019 was a pretty fun race. I mean, I ran pretty well, and it was a little bit extra validation just because I remember Dave and myself were pretty much leading the second pack the whole race.
Yeah.
And we still didn't let anyone beat us behind us. So we it was pretty satisfying that way, because guys behind us, didn't finish that far behind, but we sort of, I definitely looked at it a bit more like we just gave all these guys a free ride to PBs, but we still beat them doing it the hard way. So that was pretty good.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's always good to take the lead sometimes, even if you don't want to. Because I mean, it's like difficult, but you just don't want anyone else to beat you that's behind you, because you feel like you've led the race way too much, and then you're like, oh, I've actually burnt myself.
Yeah.
But that's all right. Well, I've got no more questions. Sorry.
All done?
Yeah.
All good. No worries. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it. That was fun.
All right. Anytime you want to come on again, you can come on.
Perfect. We'll do. All right.
Thanks,
champion. Catch you later.
So,
bye.
Thanks, guys, for listening and watching, whatever you're doing for the Bailey Runs podcast. And see you guys in the next one. See you guys there.